Get ready, Padres fans. It's time for the EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show on the Padres Radio Network.
Tatis at third, 2 outs. Fernando takes off. He's going to steal home without a play.
Coming up, we'll have a recap of the previous Padres game, a preview of today's starting pitching matchup, and our keys to the game. Plus, we'll hear from manager Mike Shildt. From the Padres Radio Network, here's Sam Levitt.
San Diego Padres baseball coming up on 97.3 The Fan and the Padres Radio Network. Today the Padres take on the Chicago White Sox in the second game of a 3-game series. Our starting pitching matchup today for the White Sox, right-hander Chris Flexen, and for the Padres, left-hander Martin Perez. Hi again everyone, Sam Levitt with you inside the loft here at the Western Metal Building at Petco Park. First pitch coming up at 5:40 as the Padres continue this final regular season homestand of 2024. Coming up in the next 50 minutes, we'll hear from Padres manager Mike Shildt. We hear from Padres shortstop Xander Bogaerts. We hear from Padres catcher Kyle Higashioka. And in just a little bit, we check in with Tony Gwynn Jr. But first, let's set the table, brought to you by Fraser Farms Market. Set your table with the highest quality of natural and organic products from Fraser Farms Market, a San Diego original since 1971 with 3 locations, La Mesa, Vista, and Oceanside. Padres entered today 88 and 66. They entered today sitting in the National League's first wild card spot, 2 games ahead of the Arizona Diamondbacks. The Padres are 4 games back of the LA Dodgers, entering today for first place in the National League West. A couple of teams involved in the NL wild card race have already played today. We'll get to them coming up a little bit later in our out-of-town scoreboard. Meanwhile, the White Sox come in 36 and 118. The White Sox are just 3 losses away from setting a new modern era record for losses in a single season. The expansion Mets lost 120 in 1962. That's the record the White Sox are trying to avoid. Speaking of this series against Chicago, the Padres opened up this 3-game set last night.
How did the Padres fare in their last game? Let's take a look back with our Padres Rewind. Presented by Hamul Casino. With thrilling slots and tables and all the best rewards, Hamul Casino has all the fun you're looking for. Hamul Casino. Fun above all else.
Joe Musgrove went 6 scoreless innings to set the tone last night, but the problem was the Padres weren't scoring. First against Garrett Crochet, he went 4 scoreless innings. They didn't score in the 5th inning either, so he went to the bottom half of the 6th inning. Still a 0-0 game. There were runners on second and third with 2 men away for Jackson Merrill.
2-2 to Merrill. Here's the pitch from Varland. Swung on, hit in the air to right center. It's shallow. On the run, Fletcher coming on, dives, can't make the catch. Both runs will score. Merrill into second, and the Padres lead it 2-0.
Jason Adam pitched the scoreless 7th inning. Tanner Scott pitched the scoreless 8th inning. We went to the top of the 9th inning. Padres still leading just 2-0. Robert Suarez came on for the save opportunity. He got the first 2 outs, but he then walked Gavin Sheets. Lenin Sosa came up next. Sosa got behind in the count 1-2, but he then worked the count back full on the 9th pitch of the AB. This happened.
Runner on second, 2 down. Here's the 9th pitch of the at-bat. Sosa swings, hits it in the air to deep left field. Profar is back to watch. It's going to go. A 2-run homer for Lenin Sosa, and the White Sox, down to their final strike, have tied it here in the 9th inning.
So he went to extra innings. Adrian Morejon pitched a scoreless top of the 10th inning. In the bottom half, the Padres had Brandon Lockridge on second base as the automatic runner. Fernando Tatis Jr. led off.
Here's the 0-1. Fernando swings, lines it towards right center field. That's going to get down. That's going to win the game. It bounces and rolls to the base of the wall. Lockridge scores. Fernando flips the helmet as he hits second, and the Padres win it 3-2 in 10.
A very nice walk-off win for the Padres. Fernando Tatis Jr., the hero. Padres win the series opener against the White Sox. And now the Padres trying to make it 2 straight wins as they play the middle game of this 3-game set. First pitch coming up at 5:40. Let's go inside the Jerry Coleman Broadcast Center.
Let's go inside the Padres broadcast booth for a deep dive on today's matchup from Tony Gwynn Jr. in our Padres game preview on the Padres Radio Network.
Tony, let's start with a look at our starting pitching matchup here tonight. Left-hander Martin Perez on the mound for the Padres, and you look at what he continues to do in the brown and gold. He has just been terrific, Tony. 2-0, a 2.72 ERA in his last 8 starts. He had another really nice outing against the Giants his last time out, 5 innings, just 1 earned run given up. Tony, what continues to stand out to you about what Martin Perez does in a Padres uniform since the trade? He's really been a different guy.
I mean, the way he competes, I think that's the first thing. He competes his tail off, and I think on the other side of that is his command. I don't know if any of us knew exactly what to expect when we got him, but he has really been open to the suggestions that Ruben Niebla has given him, and has went out and executed at a high level. And, you know, I think outside of that, he brings a whole lot to the clubhouse, especially if you talk to those guys that's in the clubhouse.
Tony, when you have a player come over in a trade the way Martin did, and he's a veteran, he's been around a long time, what does it say about a guy like that when he comes over and he seemingly is so willing to listen to what somebody like a Ruben Niebla says to him, willing to maybe change some things up? What does that say about even a veteran like a Martin Perez?
I think it depends on the circumstances, but let's look at the circumstances for Martin Perez. He's coming from the Pirates, a team at the time that was, you know, in the race, you know, for a little bit. But he clearly knew he was coming into a spot of significant need at the time. And I think his openness has to do with him wanting to help the team in any way possible. And I think it only helped that there were some guys on the team that he had a relationship with. That certainly helps ease a guy when they're going from a new place or from an old place to a new place. And I think the mere fact that, you know, he's at the back end of his career and wants to be a part of a win. I know he was with the Rangers last year and got a ring, but who wouldn't want another one?
Right-hander Chris Flexen on the mound for the White Sox here today. We'll talk more about Flexen coming up a little bit later in our pregame coverage. Tony, obviously the Padres won yesterday's game, and this time of year, that's the thing, right? You got to pick up wins any way you can get them. But obviously there was sort of the subplot last night, Robert Suarez giving up the 2-run home run. It's certainly been shakier for Robert the last month and a half. Mike Shildt spoke after the game. He said there will be a consideration and mentioned the 3 really, really solid guys, including Scott and Adam, that they have in the back end of this bullpen. And look, I wrote it down in my pregame notes today, Tony. If there's a safe situation tonight, I don't know if I would say with 100% confidence that I would totally know that it would be Robert Suarez out of the bullpen. Would love to hear just your thoughts on that situation and maybe how it's evolving as we head down the final week of the season.
I mean, I think at this point, Mike Shildt has earned our trust in terms of when the right time is, if the right time is presenting itself. Last night, to me, was different than the other ones because I felt like that was on Robert. You know, you can't, at this level, if you're watching the swings prior, it certainly looked like to me that, you know, Sosa was getting closer and closer to timing up that fastball. And so when you give him 7 opportunities to do it, and, you know, the 3 before the homer, are fouled straight back. And, you know, you can tell when a guy is on the baseball, especially when you're at our view. And so, you know, you have to, at this level, you just can't give a big league hitter that many opportunities. And I think probably the thing that is the thing that most needs to change for Robert is that he has to be able to locate those pitches, right? I mean, that pitch was, split the plate right in half, middle. And at this level, guys, especially when they've had 5, 6, 7 looks at it, they're going to be able to catch up to it. And so I think for Robert, he's got to get back to not only mixing it up a little bit more, but he's got to command it. Like, he's got to be able to put it on at least the outer third or inner thirds or top of the zone, bottom of the zone. He can't be in the middle. Even at 100, 101, guys at this level will get to it. Now, in terms of how Mike Shildt handles it, I think we'll just have to sit back and see. I know Tanner Scott's thrown the ball, although he's given up a couple runs in his last few outings. We know how good Jason Adams has been. I just think right now Mike Shildt, he's got the temperature of all of that, and
Right.
He's considering the way he's pushed the buttons all year long. I trust him to figure out which way to go when that situation presents itself.
Yeah, I said it last night. It appears maybe they're at a moment where there just needs to be some sort of adjustment, whether that's with the way Robert's pitching and whatever adjustments he has to make, or strategically with how they're working the back end of this bullpen. We'll see. It'll be interesting moving forward to see if there are any adjustments, whatever that means for the Padres right now as we enter the final week or so of the season. Tony, as always, appreciate the time. We'll talk to you and Jesse coming up at 5:30 for Game 2 of this 3-game set against the White Sox. As always, thank you so much.
No problem, Sam.
All right, that is Tony Gwynn Jr. joining us on our EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show here on the Padres Radio Network as we get ready for first pitch coming up in just a little bit here in downtown San Diego. When we come back, we'll hear from Padres manager Mike Shildt. Plus, a little bit later, we hear from Padres catcher Kyle Higashioka. Higgy not in the lineup here tonight. Elias Diaz doing the catching with the day game after a night game tomorrow. But we'll hear from Higgy coming up a little bit later on. Always good to talk with Kyle, and we talk a lot of pitching. The Padres starting rotation has been really, really good as of late. We'll also hear from Xander Bogaerts, our keys to the game, and much, much more to come as we get ready for this one in downtown San Diego. First pitch at 5:40. You're listening to the Padres Radio Network. Back here on the EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show here on the Padres Radio Network. Your water perfected. EcoWater SoCal. Your water should be perfect. Find them online at EcoWaterSoCal.com. Sam Levitt with you inside the lofts here at the Western Metal Building at Petco Park as we get ready for first pitch coming up at 5:40. Game 2 of this 3-game set between the Padres and the Chicago White Sox. We'll tell you who's hot, who's not. Coming up in a little bit, we'll hear from Padres catcher Kyle Higashioka Higashioka, Padres shortstop Xander Bogaerts, our keys to the game, and a full look at our pitching matchup between Chris Flexen and Martin Perez here tonight as the Padres try to make it a second consecutive win, a third win in a row overall here against the White Sox. As we get ready for this one, let's hear from Padres manager Mike Shildt.
Let's pull up a seat in the manager's office and hear from Padres manager Mike Shildt. Presented by Sinley Food. Spice up your culinary life.
All right, Mike, Martin Perez on the mound for you tonight. Obviously, he's done a really nice job since coming over in the trade. How would you assess what Martin's meant to this rotation so far?
Yeah, he's clearly stabilized it. All the group's done a fantastic job. Martin definitely done his part. Throws a lot of multiple pitches for strikes, controls counts, works quick, throws in and out. He's done a nice job for us.
Fernando Tatis Jr., the walk-off hit last night, obviously in a big moment. Since coming back from the injury, I mean, he's had some impactful hits. He's hit home runs. How nice is it to have Fernando, back in really every sense since he's returned?
Yeah, it's one of our better players for sure, and had some big moments. Obviously, 2 walk-offs. The pinch hit homer in San Francisco was obviously a big swing. It gave us a lead. He's done a tremendous job. His presence is very important to our lineup and on the ball club.
Can you talk a little bit about the growth that you've seen from Monaco this year? Now high leverage, big outs, a couple of saves, and just basically doing whatever you need from him.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought Adrian up. We haven't had a chance to talk as much, and I haven't been as proactive talking about Morejon, Estrada, guys like that. Adam Scott have obviously done a great job, but Adrian Morejon has been fantastic. He's big part of our success early part in the season to stabilize our club. He took those next steps to become that 7th, 8th inning guy. Then we added Scott and we added Adam. We put him in a different role, more 6th, 7th with him and Estrada. He's done a tremendous job there. But man, he's done a fantastic job in extra innings of being able to go in like last night and either come in and jam. One time he came with the bases loaded, another time he came in clean recently, and then last night, runner at second base and did a fantastic job of throwing up a 0. So Adrian's done terrific work for us in about any role we've asked him. He's been a big part of our club.
Mike, you might talking about the 2-strike approach that you guys have successfully done all year. You mentioned it last night. It was a big factor in yesterday's outcome. How much might that serve you as well in a postseason type situation where you're actually facing some of the best pitching in baseball? Yeah,
when you face really good pitching, we saw it last night. Crochet was fantastic, and guys were batting their tail off against some pretty plus stuff. And then, Baroa came in with a big arm and took some really quality at-bats, 2-strike. Bogey had a great at-bat in the 5th with 2 strikes. I mentioned Pro last night, Manny. Then Jackson was able to find some grasp. But, being able to take tough at-bats against tough pitching is really what this part of the season is about. And so our ability to do that 1 through 9 in the lineups is an asset for sure, and it's going to help us big time.
You mentioned Tyler Wade in the postgame press conference last night, what he did defensively in that 10th inning. When you have a guy contribute like that, in the role he's really had all year, how do you sort of quantify what that kind of player means to a team over the course of 162?
Yeah, I don't think you can quantify it. And that's the thing that when you have players like Tyler Wade, that's hard for the industry, understandably, to quantify their value, but Tyler Wade's value to our club is high on a lot of levels. He's able to stay sharp. We have a lot of regulars that we ride with pretty consistently, but he stays sharp. When he gets his moment, he's ready to take a good at-bat, be able to make a contributing play on the bases defensively like he did last night. But also, Wadey's got tremendous energy. He's got a great energy. He's a great clubhouse guy. Got a very high baseball IQ. When Jackson, fouled the ball off his knee, went out and made 2 really nice plays in center field. So just a really good player and a great guy on the club, and he brings a lot of intangibles that you can't measure.
The veteran with Elias Diaz, how do you think he's been able to fit in with his ball club on the fly in September? Pretty much no margin forever, but coming in immediately and being just one more part of the club. Yeah,
he's just playing. He's a good player. I've seen him when he first broke in with Pittsburgh, and you notice the talent, the big arm, and he goes over to Colorado, and every time I've always played or managed against him, he's always played well, and he's a veteran guy that knows how to play, and he's fit right in, and he's been able to Like today, he's got Perez. He's been able to catch Cease effectively and, get the guys that he's supposed to catch and done a good job preparing and going out and just letting his talent play.
Was Padres manager Mike Shildt earlier today. We'll hear more from Mike on our post-game show coming up later on this evening. First pitch coming up at 5:40, Game 2 of this 3-game series between the Padres and the White Sox. And by the way, we'll also hear a little bit more from Mike Shildt on Ha-Seong Kim in our injury report in our next segment as well. There was a bit of I thought, an interesting update on Kim today, so stay tuned for that. That'll come up in just a little bit. First, let's tell you who's hot, who's not.
Which player is locked in at the dish? Who needs to kick things up another notch? This is Who's Hot, Who's Not on the Padres Radio Network.
We take a look at the hot category. Manny Machado certainly still in there. His last 12 games, Manny batting .367 with 6 home runs, 3 doubles, and 18 RBIs. His next home run will give him a third straight 30 home run season and his 8th in the last 9 full seasons. Fernando Tatis Jr. in the midst of a 9-game hitting streak, including that walk-off hit last night, batting .342 with 5 home runs, 10 RBIs, and 9 runs scored in that span. In the not category, we have 2 guys that are teetering on exiting the not category. Jake Cronenworth had 3 hits last night. Remember, he was just 2 for his last 28 entering last night. So Jake, if he has a good night tonight, a hit or 2, we'll take him out of the not category. Xander Bogaerts, same theme. Xander had 2 hits last night. He was batting just .167 in his last 11 games before last night. And that's a look at who's hot, who's not. We'll see if Xander and Jake can get out of the not category here today. As you know, if you listen to the pregame show, it's not so easy to get out of the not category. You got to have a couple of good days in a row. We'll see if those 2 guys can do that here today in Game 2 of this 3-game set. When we come back, we hear from Xander Bogaerts, we hear from Kyle Higashioka, plus our keys to the game, a full breakdown of our pitching matchup, a look at the out-of-town scoreboard, all coming up as well. First pitch at 5:40 right here on the Padres Radio Network. Our EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show continues here on the Padres Radio Network. Sam Levitt with you inside the lofts here at the Western Metal Building at Petco Park. First pitch coming up at 5:40. Right-hander Chris Flexen on the mound for Chicago. Left-hander Martin Perez on the mound for the Padres. As we continue on, we'll hear from Xander Bogaerts and Kyle Higashioka. Coming up in just a little bit, we'll have a full look at the out-of-town scoreboard in a moment as well. But first, let's give you the latest on Ha-Seong Kim.
Who's in? Who's out? This is the Bada Fulkerson Injury Report, presented by San Diego's Bulldog Injury Attorneys, who hope you're never in an accident. But if you are, make Bada Fulkerson the first call you make. Hit them up 24/7 at badafulkerson.com.
Well, Ha-Seong Kim has been on the IL and out since late August with that right shoulder inflammation. As we know, it's been a tough time for Ha-Seong to ramp up his throwing without feeling discomfort in that shoulder. Now, yesterday, as you'll hear from Mike Shildt, he did do some throwing. He did take BP. Here was the latest on Ha-Seong Kim from Mike Shildt earlier today.
We're still trying to figure out how he's responded, but yesterday was a very, very good day for Kimmy. Was able to play a little bit more aggressive catch. Took the BP that we already talked about. He had already done before we, as we spoke. But his catch was good. Felt good. Is very optimistic that he's taking the next steps. Now it's just a matter of, to your point, how he recovers. We haven't been able to evaluate that yet. And then, based on the timing of what the season remains, what that means for him. But he did have a very positive day yesterday.
Shortstop coming back, or when we know, ease him back into second base?
I don't think you ease anybody into a middle infield position. So I can't say that everything's on the table, but I think it'd be irresponsible of me to say he's going to come back in a certain position when we haven't had that conversation. And quite candid, if he can come back and play second, he could probably come back and play short. And that's what he has been for us, our shortstop.
That was Padres manager Mike Shildt earlier today, the latest on Ha-Seong Kim. And I thought as positive of an update on Kim as we've heard in a while. So we'll see what the updates are in the days to come. But Mike Shildt calling it a very, very good day for Ha-Seong Kim. And then you heard the question there about shortstop versus second base. Look, it will be very interesting if and when Kim can return, what the Padres would do as far as second base and shortstop and Xander Bogaerts. But first things first, Kim has to get healthy and be ready to come back. So we'll see what the updates are in the days to come. That was the latest on Ha-Seong Kim. A lot of action around the major leagues on this Saturday. Let's dive in.
Let's take a trip around the Bigs and tell you about the scores you need to know in our out-of-town scoreboard. Presented by Jensen Meat, where great taste meets integrity.
We take a look at the out-of-town scoreboard. Giants beat the Royals 9-0 in Kansas City. Rays beat the Blue Jays 3-2 in Tampa Bay. Mets beat the Phillies in New York 6-3. Mets took a lead in the seventh inning in that game and did not look back. So the Phillies not helping the Padres out in that department. Braves beat the Marlins 6-2 in Miami. Matt Olson, a 2-run home run in that game. So the Braves winning as well. So not a whole lot of help so far on the out-of-town scoreboard today. Tigers beat the Orioles 6-4 in Baltimore in 10. Nationals beat the Cubs 5-1 in Chicago. Reds beat the Pirates 7-1 in Cincinnati. Ellie De La Cruz, his 25th home run of the season in that game. Game's going on right now. Mariners and the Rangers tied at 2 in the fourth inning. Angels trailing the Astros 6-1 in the third. Diamondbacks ahead of the Brewers 2-0 in Milwaukee in the fourth inning. So D-backs winning as well. Padres still not getting a whole lot of help today. Guardians and the Cardinals are scoreless in the fourth inning in St. Louis. Couple of other games yet to begin aside from this one. Yankees and the A's in Oakland at 6:07 and the Rockies and the Dodgers in LA at 6:10. And that is a full look at the out-of-town scoreboard on this Saturday. So again, the Mets winning, the Braves winning, Diamondbacks winning right now, although early in Milwaukee, and I'm sure Jesse and Tony will keep you up to the minute on those scores, especially that Diamondbacks Brewers score, the Dodgers score as well, and we'll talk plenty more about those games on our post-game show a little bit later on this evening. We'll get into Padres starting pitching and our keys to the game, but the starting pitching for the Padres as of late has been absolutely terrific, and of course one of the guys that has caught the Padres on an almost daily basis right now is Kyle Higashioka. Always good to talk with Higgy about his pitching staff, about the team. Obviously Higgy's a guy who has been with many Yankees teams that have reached the postseason, so he's a guy that does understand what it takes to get to the postseason, cross the finish line of clinching a postseason berth. I caught up with Kyle Higashioka a little bit earlier today. We first talked about the Padres starting pitching as of late, and then much more.
Obviously, you've had an opportunity to catch a number of these guys as they've really had a lot of success, really since the start of the month. What stood out to you about what this pitching staff has done as of late?
Yeah, I mean, the starting pitching it's huge for any team, but especially for us. I mean, we got a lot of star pitchers, to be honest, and they're just keeping us in every game. Especially if the offense is a little slow to get going. Just knowing that they're putting together a quality start every time, it just gives us a chance to get back in it or just take the lead whenever.
You mentioned the offense, and it's a question I've asked a couple of guys over the course of the last couple of days. From an offensive standpoint, how nice is it to have the rotation doing what they're doing, knowing if you get a couple of early runs, it's in pretty good hands right now?
Yeah, it's like I said, that's the great thing about having great starting pitching is we're always in it no matter what. So, there's no foot off the gas for us on the offensive side. We're trying to score as many runs as possible every game, but it does make it a lot nicer when the starting pitching's really helping us out.
From the starting pitching to the bullpen, you've had the opportunity to catch a couple of these new relievers since the deadline in Tanner Scott and Jason Adam. Higgy, with those two guys in particular, what stood out to you about what they've come here and accomplished so far?
Yeah, I mean, those guys are just incredible pitchers, both of them. And just to have them on the staff is a huge bonus for us. So, I trust our bullpen, and I think it's arguably the best in the league. And we weren't like that all year, so we've definitely improved a ton, and it's a lot thanks to those two guys.
Higgy, finally, we'll finish up with this. I mean, you were a part of Yankees teams in New York that went to the postseason, that went multiple rounds in the postseason. You know what it takes to get across the finish line. And as far as the finish line right now being clinching a postseason berth, getting into October, what will it take for this team to get across that finish line, hopefully play a series here at home? In your eyes, this time of year, what does that take?
I mean, to be honest, I think our team has we have the recipe for a successful postseason run. The guys never quit, no matter if we're down, up. The guys we're always in it, no matter what. So, I think once it comes down to the wire and into the postseason, it's a lot about controlling your emotions and not letting the moment get the best of you. So, we have a lot of experienced guys though that already know that, and so that's the good thing. The young guys who've come up, I mean, they have plenty of guys to learn from in order to, kind of just learn those things where you haven't experienced that moment before. But I think we're in a great spot.
That was Padres catcher Kyle Higashioka earlier today, as always. Good stuff with Higgy. Higgy, again, not in the lineup today. Elias Diaz doing the catching and batting ninth, and so it makes a lot of sense with the day game after a night game tomorrow, so I'm sure Kyle will be back in the lineup tomorrow afternoon for this series finale. But first things first, Padres taking on the White Sox. Game 2 of this 3-game series coming up at 5:40. We'll hear a little bit from Xander Bogaerts coming up a little bit later as well. Our keys to the game in just a second. Before we get to all that, I do want to spell out the clinching scenario right now for the Padres, because you may not realize what it all entails by looking at the wild card standings right now, with the Braves still 2 games out behind the Mets for that third and final wild card spot. You might think it's all about the Braves, but that is actually not the case. So here's how the Padres could actually clinch a postseason berth as early as tomorrow. What the Padres need to do is win today and tomorrow against the White Sox. They also need the Mets and the Braves to lose tomorrow. That is the way they could clinch a playoff berth as early as tomorrow. Again, the Padres got to take care of business. They got to win today and tomorrow against the White Sox. Then, again, with the Braves and Mets winning already today, they need the Braves and Mets to lose tomorrow. Now, a couple of wrinkles in that. Not really wrinkles in the situation, just things to note. Number one, the Braves play earlier than the Padres tomorrow on the East Coast in Miami. So before this game begins tomorrow here, you'll probably know the Braves score, so we'll probably have an idea of if it's even possible by the time the Padres get underway. The other interesting part about it is that the Mets play Sunday Night Baseball against the Phillies. That game's not going to start until after 4 p.m. So let's say tomorrow the Braves lose early, the Padres win their game. It is possible the Padres could clinch tomorrow, but they wouldn't know about it until hours after their game ends because, again, Sunday Night Baseball, it's a later game between the Mets and the Phillies. So, again, it could happen tomorrow if the Padres win today and tomorrow and the Braves and Mets lose tomorrow, but there's just some interesting elements to it. But we'll keep an eye on all that just so you know they could hypothetically, if all those things happen, clinch a postseason berth as early as tomorrow. And if not, then we wait to see what happens on Monday and into next week as the Padres begin a series in LA in their final road trip of 2024. Let's give you our keys to tonight's game.
How will the Padres unlock a victory in today's game? These are the keys to the game. Presented by Honor Buick GMC Hummer in National City.
Key number one, Luis Arraez. Arraez entered Tuesday on a 14-game hitting streak, batting .459 in that span. Remember, Arraez jammed his knee on a slide at home plate on Monday. He played the next day and went 0 for 5, then had a day off Wednesday, and then the scheduled off day on Thursday. He then went 0 for 5 last night. So all of a sudden, Luis doing something that he doesn't typically do, and that's go 0 for in back-to-back games. He's 0 for his last 10. It's the first time he's been hitless in back-to-back starts since August 18th and 19th, so basically a month. We know how important Arraez is to this lineup. Padres could sure use him to get going here today. He can be a big spark at the top of that lineup. And Luis back in the lineup today playing first base and leading off. That's key number one. Key number two, follow the way Martin. In the past 7 games, Padres starting pitchers have allowed just 3 runs in 44 innings and a third. That's a 0.61 ERA in that span. If you go back even farther, the rotation has a 2.28 ERA since September 1st. That's the 3rd lowest ERA for any starting pitching staff in the majors during that span. So if you're Martin Perez, quite frankly, you got to keep doing what you've been doing, and that's be really effective, and follow the way of your teammates. Padres starting pitching has been stellar as of late. Key number 3, limit the hot White Sox trio. The White Sox are not a good team. That's no secret. But they have a few hitters in this lineup, like we mentioned yesterday, that are swinging the bat well. Andrew Benintendi had a single last night. He's hitting .307 with 5 home runs, 16 RBIs in his last 21 games. Andrew Vaughn came into this series hitting .360 with 4 home runs and 8 RBIs in his last 12 games. He had a double last night. We mentioned Lenin Sosa yesterday. Remember, he hit the 2-run home run off Robert Suarez to tie the game in the 9th inning last night. Sosa is hitting .400 with 2 home runs and 6 RBIs in his last 13 games. So keep an eye on those 3, Sosa, Vaughn, and Benintendi. Even though this White Sox team is probably going to be historically bad, they've got a few guys in that lineup that can hurt you and are swinging the bat very well right now. That's a look at our keys to the game as we get ready for Game 2 of this 3-game set. When we come back, we hear from Xander Bogaerts. We also tell you what to watch for in today's game. A full breakdown of our starting pitching matchup. Much, much more to do. First pitch coming up at 5:40 on the Padres Radio Network. Our EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show continues here on the Padres Radio Network. Sam Levitt with you inside the lofts here at the Western Metal Building at Petco Park. First pitch coming up at 5:40, Game 2 of this 3-game series between the Padres and the White Sox. We'll hear from Xander Bogaerts in just a moment. First, let's tell you what to watch for in tonight's game.
What's the one thing Sam Levitt will be keeping his eye on in today's game? This is What to Watch For. Presented by Genesis Home Improvements, San Diego's trusted painting, roofing, and window company. Save 15% today on a new beginning for your home. Visit GenesisHomeImprovementsSD.com.
What to watch for in tonight's game. In a save situation, who do we see tonight? I'm not saying that it won't be Robert Suarez, but for the first time this year, I'm not totally sure it will be. I think this is a pretty legitimate question right now. Suarez is a 5.40 ERA in his last 17 appearances. He's allowed a game-tying or go-ahead home run in 3 of his last 6 appearances. He's allowed at least 1 run in 5 of his past 10 appearances. Mike Shildt said yesterday there would be consideration given to how the Padres approach save chances. He talked about Suarez needing to be able to throw another pitch to right-handed hitters other than a fastball. There's also the fact that Robert Suarez has thrown 62 innings this season, more than twice what he threw last year because of the injury. It's the most he's thrown since he pitched 62-plus innings in Japan in 2021. Again, I'm not saying that Robert Suarez isn't entering this game in a save opportunity, but I don't think you can say that with 100% certainty right now. So, that's what to watch for in today's game. If there's a save chance, do we see Robert Suarez? Interesting question entering tonight. That's what to watch for in today's game. Well, Xander Bogaerts has had a tough couple of games defensively. Made a couple of errors both on Wednesday and then last night on routine ground balls, the shortstop. And we know Xander went to second base. Now he's playing shortstop again. Here was Xander earlier today talking about the adjustment to playing short once again.
Yeah, just having a little bad habits that I picked up at second, which are really good for second. And now I'm trying to do what I used to do at short, and it's a little complicated. So I just talked to our defense guy yesterday, and because I know what my body wants to do, but probably it's not the best for me to do it. And as I said, it's just a difference between the way I feel at second and short, and hopefully I can just continue what I was doing at second and just doing it at short, and not trying to go back to my old ways, which was good for short, but it wasn't good for second.
Well, certainly you hope that Xander Bogaerts has a good day at shortstop here today. I think he will. He's been a long-time shortstop and a great one at that. Just interesting thoughts on that from Xander earlier today. Let's dive into our pitching matchup between Martin Perez and Chris Flexen.
Let's take a look at who's on the bump today with our starting pitching preview. Presented by Chimney Sweeps, Inc., San Diego's trusted chimney and fireplace service company for 40 years. Call Chimney Sweeps, Inc. at 1-800-CHIMNEY or book an inspection online at chimneysweepsinc.com.
Left-hander Martin Perez on the mound for the Padres in 2024 since being traded from Pittsburgh. He's 2-0 with San Diego at 2.72 ERA in 8 starts, 43 innings. He struck out 35, walked 12. Last start against the Giants, 5 innings, 1 earned run given up. The start prior against the Tigers, 6 innings and a third, no runs given up. Perez has a 5.50 career ERA against the White Sox in 9 starts. Meanwhile, right-hander Chris Flexen on the mound for the White Sox, 2-14 with a 5.09 ERA in 31 outings this season. Those numbers aren't great, but he's been better lately. In his last 2 starts, Flexen has allowed just 2 runs in a combined 11 innings. He went 5 scoreless innings in his last start against the A's. Made a relief appearance against the Padres last year with the Mariners, gave up 2 runs in 2 innings. His last start against the Padres came with the Mariners in 2022. He went 6 2/3 scoreless innings, but the year before that he gave up 8 runs on 10 hits in a start here at Petco Park. Flexen has been bad on the road this season, a 6.60 ERA, in 14 road games. And that's a look at our starting pitching matchup between Chris Flexen and Martin Perez. You've been listening to the EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show on the Padres Radio Network. EcoWater SoCal, your water should be perfect. Find them online at EcoWaterSoCal.com. When we come back, Jesse Ackler, Tony Gwynn Jr. have the starting lineups, first pitch, and all the play-by-play. I'll talk to you on our postgame show. You're listening to your home for San Diego Padres baseball, 97.3 The Fan, and the Padres Radio Network.